everybody. Welcome to Into the Abyss. I am your host, Leslie Martin, and it is October 24th. And today we have a new co-host in Graf. Say hi to everybody, Graf.
Hello, how is everyone doing tonight? It's a pleasure to be on Into the Abyss, my first time.
And we're happy to have you. Absolutely. And today we are going to have a special guest. He's coming in and out, so I'm not sure if he's here yet, so we'll give him a couple more minutes. But our special guest today is going to be Henry Duhart. He is a local Democrat who's running for County Commissioner District 5 in St. Lucie County, Florida. He is also, I believe, the lead singer for the band Apollo Vega, and we may have the entire band in studio, but let's see. So let's just say hi right now to Henry. Hey, Henry, you're muted. Are you there, sweetie? Okay, we'll just keep talking until Henry pops up. So for those in my audience who don't know who you are, even though they probably do because I'm the newbie on the network. So can you explain to everybody who you are?
Oh, hey, Henry, how's it going, brother?
Hey, Henry, you gotta unmute, sweetie.
While that's getting situated, so I'm from the podcast Sensei Truther Club, where we cover Power Rangers. We do like a deep dive of the entire show. We started from season 1, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and right now we're entering Zeo soon. So very excited about that. And we just look at it through like a sort of leftist political lens, and it's a fun time. Every guest that I've had on that show has had a fantastic time, and it's a wild ride from start to finish.
Well, that sounds cool. I still need to watch it. I haven't. I apologize. Trying to get all this situated. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I do want to because I was the one who turned my kids on to Power Rangers back in the day. Because it came out, I want to say, when you were 2, because you're the exact same age as my son, my oldest.
Yeah, so I think it actually came out either the year before or the year that I was born originally, Mighty Morphin. So okay. I think Power Rangers came in on like 1992 or 3. And dripping with that 90s nostalgia.
Yeah. And
I recently I rewatched the movie, or no, I didn't rewatch it. Excuse me. I watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, for the first time, and it's not good. Spoiler alert! It's not good at all. It's actually like one of the worst Power Rangers things that I've seen. But the first 15 minutes of that movie is the coziest I've ever felt watching a movie, because it's like the height of the 90s. Where it's just like, remember when everybody was so hopeful for the future?
Yeah, that was so long ago.
Yeah, it's really weird to see, because you just get that general vibe from everybody, like, wow, the future is going to be all right. You know, everything's going to turn out for the best. Of course, like back in those days, we weren't aware, at least normal, everyday, average citizens weren't aware of like what it took, right, to get the amenities that we enjoyed in the 90s. Between everything of like Bill Clinton's era did and all that other stuff. But yeah, man, what a time to be alive. How's it going, Henry?
Hey, Henry.
We can see you now, and it looks like you're unmuted.
Yep, and now it looks like you're frozen. So okay,
technical problems abound.
That's okay.
It happens to all of us. All of us.
That's all right. It's Friday. It's the end of the week.
Hey, we can hear you.
Hey, Henry.
Can you talk?
Can you hear us, hon?
It might be a connection issue.
Yeah, it seems like he's in his car. I'm not quite sure. But that's okay. That's, like I said, Into the Abyss. That's where I was going. Into the Abyss. That's what Into the Abyss is about. It's not that serious. It's the end of the week. We've all had shit weeks every week for a really long time. So that's kind of why I put this show together, for, us to kind of hang back at the end of the week, talk a little bit about stuff that happened throughout the week, get our drink on, get her vape on,
I'm way
and
ahead of you
just,
on that.
yeah, and just
That's
chill.
what we got the 30-second countdown timer for, right?
Exactly. So if Henry doesn't come on, that's fine. I mean, there's stuff to talk about this week. I've done a couple of the shows this week with some of the other guests. Some of the things that we talked about were the accidental Zoom um, touching of oneself. And
Yeah, that was the discourse around that was very interesting. I know there was a lot of like ironic posting, which I know is really tough. Like wait, like Leslie, you're probably the most normal out of the entire Not Safe for Wonks crew. Like we kind
that's
of jib
frightening.
you for that.
That's frightening.
But it's just like, man, like if you were coming from the outside looking in on all these ironic statements and takes that everybody was putting out on Twitter, you'd be like, who the hell are these crazy people?
Yeah, I sometimes watch now that I'm in the universe, I guess, and I kind of watch the tweets that are happening. A lot of times I don't understand them. I'm just going to be
Yeah,
honest. I don't understand the humor, and it's weird for me having been a professional comedian. I generally get even really subtle things, and like I half the time I have no idea what anybody's talking about.
gotcha. Yeah, I gotta say, so how long have you been on the internet?
Well, I've been on the internet since the internet started. I mean, I don't know how to officially answer that. I mean, I've been on the internet since AOL.
Okay. So like, well, like, were you like, so I used to, just to clarify, I used to use AOL too. I'm not that old, or I'm not that young.
Well,
But there was so I romanticize late 90s, early 2000s internet. I think all the way up until, I would say, I romanticize MySpace a little bit too. Though that was like, oh boy.
I
But I
miss
think like,
MySpace. I really do. I used to have a ball on MySpace. I really did.
yeah, no, I used to have a ball on MySpace too. And like the cool thing about all pretty much all the way up until like the advent of Facebook. I think once Facebook became popular around like 09-ish,
Hmm.
that's when the internet took a turn and became way more corporate. I would already say like towards the middle of the 2000s, it was already kind of sort of getting that way. But what happened was is like a lot of sites started removing personalization and like ingrown communities, right? So like I never used Tumblr. I'm not a big Tumblr user, but I could see the appeal of Tumblr because Tumblr, you have, if you only want to be a part of certain communities, you can only be a part of certain communities on Tumblr. It's the
Really? Because
same
I've never
thing.
been on Tumblr ever. I don't even know what's on Tumblr.
So like typically people use 90% of the reason why people are on Tumblr is for like porn and sex related things, if I'm going to be honest with you. But the other parts is like to engage in communities and fandoms and like be around like it's basically like a mishmash of like Reddit and Twitter with the added benefit of like MySpace style personalization.
Okay. And see,
Yeah.
like when the whole Reddit thing started, I think I've been on Reddit maybe once. It was too confusing for me. My
Oh,
kids
dude.
were
Yeah.
super into Reddit, but my kids are, well, you're 2 days younger than my oldest,
Right.
and then my little one's 22. So they would show me stuff on Reddit, Mom, and I'd be like, okay, but I never went on there on my own.
Right.
Um,
So Reddit is basically like, what if we had a bunch of different communities and people who only want to be a part of those communities could just subscribe to that.
mhm.
But on top of that, let's just have a normal, like, everyone can see what the top posts of the website are right now. And so like that's how you do it. But like navigating Reddit is so complicated. It's definitely like, it's not something that's super easy and intuitive. In
Yeah.
fact, I never like, I almost, unless I'm like needing to do quick searches for a technical problem I'm having or a deal that I want to look at.
Mhm.
I never go on Reddit on my desktop PC. I always go on it through the phone because I find the mobile apps and even like the official Reddit app sucks.
Okay.
Like, it's not good. So it's like, you, even then you can't even trust the official app. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think Reddit is made for to be like a, it tries to be now, like they're trying to market it now as like, hey guys, like everyday average normal people can definitely get on Reddit and enjoy it. I'm like, nah, it's not as easy as like signing up for Twitter or Facebook. Um
Yeah,
and navigating those websites.
all those streams and everything. I think I've tried to go on it recently to try to get a link to watch an NFL game or something like that. And I think I was on for maybe 5 minutes and I got frustrated and was like, no, I can't figure this out. Screw it.
That's
Um,
because it was a website that was like made for advanced like this was like strictly like I'm the IT guy who makes six figures a year type, like those are the type of people that made Reddit. It wasn't everyday average like normal people, you know?
okay. That makes much more sense because I was like, what is the whole like the line by line thing and trying to find things and it was just too much for me. I couldn't. And I not the as big of a techno moron as I make myself out to be. I
I mean,
can
here you
be.
are streaming on StreamYard. You
Yeah, and
can't,
I
I
figured it
can't
out
say
all by
many people know
myself.
how to do that.
Well, and I figured it out all by myself today. So, I was pretty proud of myself. And I did
Right.
set up the radio or the phone thing. There's something going on, I think, with my computer. I think that's why it's not working. That's why I need a new computer. So I apologize for anyone who's trying to call in. Just keep trying because I'm going to keep going back and looking into it to see if I can get it to connect. So and if it doesn't work, just know we're going to keep trying to do this because I really want to be able to talk to people who are watching. I'd rather hear people's voices, and I guess maybe I'm old school that way, where like I'd rather talk to somebody on the phone than text. So I would rather hear callers than just see comments and try to read comments on the screen. I would rather actually hear somebody's voice, but that's just me.
When I lived in the city, I
Mhm.
preferred texting. When I got out of the city and I started living more towards the countryside, that's when I started preferring voice calls. And that's probably because the fact when you're in the city, you're around people all the time. And when you're not, and you're kind of like in the countryside a bit,
Mhm.
um, you're driving, right? You're on like
Right.
private transportation by yourself. So like just to combat loneliness, I'll be calling people on the phone. And
And see,
people, I guess also due to the pandemic, people are more like willing to answer phone calls lately because
yeah,
everybody's so separated now, right?
yeah, yeah. Although I have had a couple of people who I met in different like Bernie groups and things like that who were millennials and Gen Zers who like every person on my Facebook page I have called at least once because I
Oh,
don't want
really?
anybody. Yeah, I don't want anybody in my personal space who I haven't actually spoken to.
I deleted
And
Facebook like a couple of years ago.
say that one more time.
I deleted Facebook a couple of years ago.
Really? But I'm
Yeah.
old though. That's my only social network. That's it.
I know so many people that say that, and I'm like, I'd rather just not be on a social network if I'm being honest with you. Like, the most normie social network I was a part of was Instagram, and I just stopped using it after a while because I just feel like all people do on Instagram is flex. Like, like
Yeah.
Instagram is the flexing app. It is a way to build, like, it is an easy way to build a following
Mhm.
because with the hashtags and everything, people will just follow if you just post in their hashtags. And like they'll actually like feed the algorithm by like liking things and commenting on things all the time. But like it's like the most, I think it's one of the most like disingenuous social media platforms of all time. But that was like the only way my family was able to see pictures of me constantly. Because my Twitter, I just don't tell anybody I know my Twitter handle. Like very select few friends I know have my Twitter handle and stuff.
And see, I'm the opposite. I don't really do Instagram. I actually have two. I generally use them to stalk my sons.
I see.
That's all I use it for, is to like check in on them to make sure they're okay. That's it.
Yeah, my mom actually my mom does that too. So yeah, she used Instagram to stalk me as well, just to see any sort of pictures of me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because like I'm just not the like my wife just told me today, she's like, hey, we kind of stopped taking pictures together. And I was like, yeah, because we kind of stopped going out. It's literally the only times we take pictures together.
Yeah, I mean, well, why would you take pictures in the house anymore? Because like used to be, taking pictures was a whole experience. You know, you took the pictures, they were on the film, you took the film in to get it developed. Half the time you forgot what you took pictures of. So it was always exciting to get that package of pictures back from Walgreens going, okay, what's on this roll of film? And as a matter of fact, I have 3 rolls of film right now. I have no idea what's on them. None.
It's going to be a surprise when you develop them.
Yeah, eventually. Oh, you know what? I think we've got Henry's cousin Harold. Harold, are you there, hon? Harold? Okay, we'll wait. Maybe they'll come back again.
It's all good. It happens. It happens to the best of us. Yeah, I mean, like, in the middle of the pandemic, like when we were first going through the lockdown, of course, like my wife and I posted the cute snuggly picture where we have our like blankets on because I got a good deal. A hotel was throwing out a bunch of furniture and they were like selling their hotel furniture at like, it was like $50 for a recliner. No. Actually, it was $25 for a recliner. I bought 2 of them for 50. And I got my friend to take the recliners back to my house, and I replaced like our little like couch. We had a very small couch that was pretty uncomfortable to sit on. So these recliners that like freaking go up and everything, and they're amazing. Like my guests will sleep on them and be like, oh no, I slept really well in that. I was like, okay, cool. I don't have to accommodate you guys anymore.
There you go. I think we've got a band member coming in. Hang on. Who is this? KO Too Tall Turner?
Kai Too Tall Turner.
There we go. What's up, Kai?
What's
Hi,
up,
Kai.
guys? How are we doing?
And hang on,
Hey,
we got
Kai.
Harold here. Hey, Harold.
Hey, what's up, you guys?
Harold, can you hear?
I'm
Okay.
so sorry, guys.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I just got done playing.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you, Harold, and no worries, Kai.
Yeah. How's everything going, guys?
Good. So, Kai, can you explain to my audience and to me who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm Kai Too Tall Turner. Everybody calls me Too Tall, and I play drums for the Vega tribe with Henry Duhart.
Very nice. And we're still waiting for Henry to come on. He's been popping in and out, so I think he's got a bad connection. And hey, Harold, how are you?
I'm doing. Are you calling me
Hi.
now?
Hey.
Harold.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes.
Hey,
So
Harold.
I'm the manager. Newly to it, so we're slowly getting on, getting everybody together. Right now, Henry's coming back from a wedding. He had a gig at a wedding, so he was on the road at the time, so the signal is very like crappy in the area that he's in.
That's all right. And then we've got Andrew.
Hey, hello.
Hey, Andrew.
How's it going?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for doing this. It's cool.
No problem. Now, Andrew, can you explain to everybody who you are?
So I met Henry through my friend Connor, and I've just been playing with these guys now for what is it now? Like 3 months? I don't know. I play guitar.
Yes.
I play guitar with them.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome. What type of genre do you guys play?
Everything. We play everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we want to put we don't want to box the creative process in, so everything.
Gotcha. What's a normal like set list at a concert looking like? What type of genres are you guys playing then when you're live?
So a lot of things are originals. It's maybe we may like throw like a little bit of covers in there, but with like our own little twist to it. But a lot of originals. A lot are like Apollo Vegas originals.
Okay. That's awesome.
Okay. And I don't know if you can do this, Graph, I can't do it. We didn't even talk about this. I'm so sorry. But if you can pull one of their videos off of YouTube, because I can't on my computer, because I can't hear it.
Oh, gotcha. I don't think I can, but I will try.
Okay. If you can, it's no big deal.
Let's
So
see.
while Graf's trying to do that, guys, what's good? What do you guys got going on?
Right.
So yeah, go ahead. You want to take it away or?
Oh, you got it. You got it. You got it.
Okay, so right now, as you know, Henry is playing two big roles. He's running for county commissioner of St. Lucie County, which he's destined to win. It's something that he's been pushing forward and putting himself out there big time. And then he's also Apollo Vega, and this is the Vega tribe as well. So after the elections, November 3rd, we'll get the results of him winning. And then from there, we're going to go on a 10-city tour, mainly in Florida, and then we're probably going to try to branch out into Georgia if possible.
Okay.
Just
nice.
making new music with the band.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Now, Harold, you also just got off of your own run. You were running for mayor of Fort Pierce.
Yes.
You did not make it past your primary. I am so sorry.
No, everything's a learning process. I only was 200 votes shy of being in the runoff. So everything's a learning process. We're not giving up as far as being in the positions that we need to be in our community. That's why Henry's running. We're all pillars of light, trying to make the necessary change within our community. So we can see that within our community, through politics, through music, through the arts. We're always pushing.
What was some of the stuff that you learned from running your campaign, and that you would tell people out there who have not been a part of the political process but want to be?
Hey, Harold. Harold. Before you answer that, Andrew and Kai, can you guys mute your mics when you're not talking for the background noise?
Sure, yeah.
Not a problem.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Not a problem.
You're good.
Go ahead, Harold. I'm sorry.
So to be quite honest, I learned a lot from Henry's campaign. So Henry ran for city commissioner in 2018, and I was a part of that. It was pretty much me and him. I do the flyers, he just show face. We were a two-man team on top of volunteers, but I learned a lot from him. So if anybody is trying to get out into politics or just put themselves out there, don't be afraid to talk or communicate with anybody or connect, because you never know who you're running to that's willing to help, and your vision is heard and want to be heard by many people. But if you're not sharing it, then nobody will ever know or feel connected or feel like I thought the same way too. So big ups to Henry all the way. I was definitely inspired and took quite a few notes from him, and he always pushed me too as well.
Are you gonna run again?
But I think he's on actually. Oh yes, 4 years. 4 years is enough time to win, if not by a landslide, win for sure.
Awesome.
And that would make you, because I'm in Port St. Lucie, so I'm not in Fort Pierce, so I couldn't vote for you. But
no,
if you had won this year, that would have made you the first Black mayor of Fort Pierce. Is that correct?
Correct. Historically speaking, yes, correct.
And Fort Pierce is a predominantly Black city.
Yes, which still surprises many of us to this day, why we haven't had someone to represent the other side of the tracks.
Yeah, no, I don't, especially with the way that Fort Pierce is set up. And I know the county that Henry's running for county commissioner is actually more predominantly white, but the city itself is very Atlanta. Um,
Yes, yeah, yes. Which which is a beautiful thing. It's just, being, like I said, just making sure you're pushing that vision out and being where you need to be to spark that interest in people's lives to want to get involved or to want to actually listen. Because I think a lot of us has closed our ears off to, I guess, what the typical politician is, or I don't even like to call it politics because I mean you're making necessary changes in your community, but I guess everything is political nowadays, no matter what form of anything, You can wear a blue shirt and people think, you represent something, so that's a political statement. So anything can be political, but I don't see it that way.
Do you feel like I know we're talking in like hunky dory type of terms here, but do you feel jaded at all by the electoral system now that you've had the
Um,
experience to run and stuff? Like, is there any like sort of maybe criticisms or whatever that you might have of the whole process?
Not so much. Um, I try to not blame the machine so much. Um, More so, just like I said, it's a learning process. So just pushing myself out there even more. And in the days that I'm tired and want to take a nap or something like that, making sure I'm still out there and getting myself heard and seen and putting myself in the right places. So not so much, because we can blame anybody all day, but just accepting full responsibility and accepting the life lessons that you get from it, you'll be better off.
so, what's it been like running a campaign during a pandemic?
Terrible. Terrible, because I like to interact with people. Um, I love to interact with people. As much of the introvert I am, I like eye contact. I like to see people face to face. So not being able to be face to face all the time and having all of our what are those things called? Our I can't even think of it. Candidate forms. There we go. I'm so sorry. Candidate forms via Zoom. It's a little different. I think I only had one candidate form that was in person, and it wasn't that many people there. But like I love to give people eye contact. It's like if you're talking to me, I'm going to give you my full undivided attention, and I would hope the same as well. So like when I'm speaking to you, you kind of can tell when somebody's not telling the truth or when somebody's not fully into it because they'll look away from you at all times versus
Right.
giving you that full eye contact and stuff like that. So it was terrible. I would have loved to have been in person with people.
Gotcha. Uh, I think it's kind of interesting because, we live in the dichotomy of, yes, we're in the pandemic and the government seems to be doing, like the national government seems to be doing a number of different measures to prevent people from voting. Let's just be real about it. Um, but,
Yeah.
running a sort of pandemic style campaign, it must be hard because you need people to go out and actually like go in person to vote, and it's kind of weird because you're also asking someone to like sort of risk their lives in a way, right, if they don't take the proper precautions. um
Yes. Yeah. So it's been many times where like because I interact with people, I don't go around like my grandma and stuff like that. For the simple fact that I've been around too many people to even go around her, the idea of just getting her sick would be terrible. and vice versa. So um, my hats is all off to like poll workers or people that's still at the polls. I still go to the polls too. So I still wave signs for Henry at the poll. But my hats goes off to like the poll workers and people that's still out there, you know, regardless of the pandemic, they're out there with a mask and everything.
Right. Henry, it looks like you're here. We were able to hear you for a couple of seconds.
That was me. I muted him. Henry,
Ah,
can you
okay.
hear us? See, I muted him because of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So what has it been like to be a part of the Do Hard campaign? Like what kind of inspires you to like help out with this campaign other than the fact that, you know, you guys are tangentially related and stuff?
Yeah, me and Henry goes back like long time. One thing I can truly take from the campaign is the motto, don't complain, be the change. And that sometimes I'll be like not wanting to do something or like be stuck in my old ways, and I'm like, you're complaining right now, you know, you want to do something different or you want to be something um,
So be the change, as Henry
better.
says.
You know, just stick to it. Don't give it
We're losing them.
Yep.
too much. As yes, just be the change.
No, I agree. But right
You know,
now,
and sometimes we'll throw it at each other.
Right.
so when you're complaining, you throw at each other your slogan, be the change, don't complain.
we'll check each other sometimes. I'm like, oh no, don't complain, be the change. And to know that
Nope.
you have a family system.
Okay, we're gonna try to let them figure out what's going on.
Gotcha.
In the meantime,
Well,
but yeah, Florida.
Leslie, you've been a part of like Florida politics for a little bit. Like, what is the politics in your area like?
Very, very little. Very little.
Very little.
Yeah, I just moved back here after 30 years in Texas. So I very, very little. I became a Democratic precinct captain to try to fight from within. If we get Biden, try to push the Biden-Harris ticket, you know, more left, more progressive. What is that going to happen? I don't know. But it wasn't something. Okay, I get talked into shit a lot.
Right.
So like the same way I got talked into podcasting was the same way I got talked into that. Somebody just a few people came to me and said, you'd be good at this, you'd be good at this, you'd be good at this. And I was like, all right, what do I got to do? And because it was easy, I went ahead and did it because I'm a little lazy. And I'll be completely honest about that. I'm Gen X. That's what we do. What I've seen is, at least in Florida, is probably indicative of everywhere else. Centrist neoliberals basically run the Democratic Party here in Florida too. There is a progressive movement here, but it's very disjointed from what I've seen.
Right. Well, we have the whole gusanos. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I mean they are right. We have the whole gusano population in Florida that kind of prevents progressive change of sorts in the state, right? Because like suddenly every 4 years they come into the national spotlight, and suddenly it's like, oh, we can't talk about anything that might be an inch of good change for us because that's socialism. And Fidel Castro took away my pony and my slaves that I had working the cornfields. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's true. And
I know,
I could
that's
say
why
that, like, I
I
have
see you
Cuban, I'm
laughing.
Puerto
It's
Rican
really-
myself, and I have Cuban ancestry in my blood. So like I have cousins who are Cuban, and it's very much like it's funny how like the Hispanic population in Florida just becomes progressively more conservative as the years go on, as they become older and older, and they listen to the older generations there more often. And it's just like an entire feedback loop of sorts, and it's really hard to get out of it, if I'm being honest with you. Because like it becomes a sense of pride, right? Like I've been in conversations with Cubans before, who I have an ex coworker actually who was on like one of the last freedom flights from
Oh,
Cuba
wow.
to the United States. Yeah, he's in like his late 50s right now, or mid to late 50s, and I still keep in touch with him to this day, but he openly knows like my politics, and I'm like, and I told him straight to his face, like, because he was talking about how like when the revolution happened, like half of his home was like essentially, he said, was taped off or something like that. He could only use like half of his house or something like that, and his family had to like steal supplies or something like that. And and he was like, yeah, my family was living great before the revolution. And I was like, buddy, your family probably deserved it, more or less. And I told that to him, and he's like, and then after a while, like, he started seeing around to like, hey, this is from the same guy who was like, oh yeah, we should definitely nuke North Korea. It's like, eventually he was able to see like my sort of viewpoint on things, and like just the way of like, hey, it doesn't always have to be bloody like that, but at the same time too, you have to recognize like the exploitation of the people can stand for no longer.
Right. I mean,
So like even to this day, like I'll talk to these people. Like I've been pretty open about my politics I stopped recently in the state of Tennessee recently, once the protest movement really started like kicking off this year. I
mhm,
stopped being as open as I was, just because I live in the state of Tennessee now.
right.
But I mean, like, all of my last couple of jobs that I've had, they all are like, Eddie, we miss you, like all this other stuff. And they all do like my politics and everything. So I don't know, maybe I think people are more likely to champion like progressive politics, but it's when you introduce those McCarthyist words in there, they're like, oh no, I don't want to have anything to do with that, right?
Mhm. No, I
And
totally hear you. I still have to, um, being bougie and being left is weird
oh,
because
my father worked at Bloomingdale's, and because he worked at Bloomingdale's, he developed a rich taste of apparel,
mhm,
and it's hard. Like, I got into like the way I look and like the things that I wear and stuff in my late teens, because my
mhm.
dad would always wear that sort of apparel around me. And I love me some Burberry shirts, man. I know it has that kitchen cloth design on it, but my God, when it's the plaid accents on like the dark blue, royale blue button down shirts with some nice khakis on and some nice shoes, that's a look right there. That is a vibe. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so it's hard when you're, I mean, I didn't grow up with like Rachel. I didn't grow up with money, but I grew up with two working parents before that was a thing. Like most of my friends' moms were housewives when I was growing up. So having two parents working, we had more stuff than some people. And I grew up wanting things like maids and chauffeurs. I did. But I hadn't thought it through.
Right.
I still kind of want that stuff.
You want to be pampered. You want to be taken care of.
I'm old. I'm tired. I just want people to bring me shit. Um, like, I seriously, whoever invented, I always say this and I've never looked it up and I don't know why. Whoever invented room service, I want to kiss them full on the mouth because that is my jam. Hotel rooms and room service is the shit. That was one of the things when I was doing stand up that I would splurge if they didn't, if I got booked like in a comedy condo or some like hellhole. I would actually pay for a hotel room myself just so I could have room service.
Oh, dude, I believe it. I mean, yeah, I love to be pampered too. I'm married, and it's great when I'm pampered.
Yeah. And as you get older, that doesn't go away. It just gets, you want it more.
I guess like one of the conservative parts about me, I guess, is when I was growing up as a kid, I always wanted that nuclear family type situation.
Me too.
So like, I always wanted my wife to be like the homebody who helps take care of the kids in the house and stuff, and I'll provide the money. And like right now, the way our current income statement or income setup is, it's like we have a dual income household. Mostly because we had to. I used to be a single income household, and I used to take care of all the bills and everything for like a good couple of years. And then it just, lo and behold, adulthood just smacks you right in the face time and time again. So I couldn't do that anymore. But there was like a section of my life where like, yeah, no, I did have that nuclear family lifestyle for a little bit.
No, I did too. With my first husband, I was lucky enough that I was able to stay home from the time of my oldest. I was working when he was born, and I had to go back to work at 4 weeks, which sucked. But I was able to literally find a daycare that I could walk to on my breaks and nurse. And then when my husband went into, when his business finally kicked in, I was able to like freelance write and stuff like that. So for the most part, I got to stay home with both kids. Like I got to stay home with my little one from the day he was born. But I think from the time that my oldest was like 4, I was home for most of the time. Like I would drop him in daycare like once a week. So I know I was lucky to be able to have that, where I can't even imagine you or either one of my kids in the current situation and in the direction that we're heading, you guys ever being able to do what I was able to do.
Right. I feel like, so I got lucky. I'm very blessed. My adulthood life, I don't miss being a kid. Like I know some certain adults out there are like, oh man, I miss being 10 years old and playing games as soon as I got home from school and all that stuff. And I'm like, I really don't. Like my adulthood years, like when I was 19, I landed a job that paid me $30K salary.
Nice.
But I also had to grow up really fast because like I was an older brother. And then there was like a custody case, and then I lived with my father for a certain period of time. And then after that, like I had gotten my girlfriend pregnant at like the age of like 19. And so like I had to grow up like insanely fast. And then we ended up getting married, trying that whole thing out. And then we had moved to Florida, and I had gotten a job at a company that my stepdad was working for. So like literally like pretty much nepotism. Of course I had to like interview well still, but the fact that I was able to land that interview and a bunch of other stuff, like that's what I think that was the changing point. And then like after that, I was able to bend that experience, because the crazy thing about the job market, right? It's like you'll apply to something on Indeed, right? You'll land the job and it's some crazy job title. And you think to yourself, oh, if I just put the job title as is on my resume, everything will be fine. But then everybody's just like, what exactly is a panel? Like, what exactly is like a relations specialist or something like that? And the the description to the job doesn't match the title, and then it like prevents you from getting jobs elsewhere. So I just like bent it to make it like general experience for a specific area.
Right.
And that like sent me over. But you know, like we all go through like life struggles differently and everything. I'm pretty happy with the way life turned out for me. Like I'm blessed, right? I'm very fortunate in that way. But I think for the most part though, it's just one of those things where yeah, I did get to enjoy it, and I lived that bougie lifestyle a bit too, because I got pretty good money. I mean, you're talking about a 19-year-old kid who lived in an income restricted household because for a certain period of time when I was with my ex-wife and the kid, we qualified for an income restricted apartment. So we
Mhm.
paid like $720 for a 2-bedroom apartment with some decent space in it, square footing. And then I got divorced. And then now I have partial custody. And I had like no debt. I didn't really have credit card debt. I didn't really like have anything. So what did I do? Oh, dude, I got to enjoy all of my like hobbies. I was going to Magic the Gathering tournaments every Friday and just buying a box of booster packs every time. It was
Mhm.
wild. I also got myself into a lot of debt.
You did. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody got,
Now
everybody's
I'm
got to go
suffering.
through that. Everybody does. I ended up getting lucky. I got me and my first husband out of credit card debt before we got divorced. So when we got divorced, the only debt I had was my car payment.
Oh,
And
dude.
yeah, that was it. That's all I had. And in my last divorce, I got a several $1,000 settlement. So
Hey, let's go.
yeah, so the only debt I have is a parent student loan that I didn't want to take out for my oldest to go to Full Sail University because I didn't want him to.
Ooh.
Yeah, thank
Ooh.
you,
Ugh.
thank you.
Wholesale.
Yeah,
No. Ah. I
I would.
almost did that too, to be fair. I almost did the Full Sail one. And then there was one in Washington. I think it was like Reddington, Washington. It was called DigiPen. And
Mhm.
like people will straight up get hired by like 3 different companies straight out of DigiPen. And then my father was like, I'm not taking out any loans for you, brother. You're on your own. And I was like, okay, thanks, Dad. So I proceeded to not go to Full Sail or DigiPen. And I don't know, maybe that was a good thing because
Yeah, because well, first of all, Full Sail, but Full Sail, their accelerated program, I knew that was a bad idea for my oldest because he's on the spectrum,
right.
and his nickname is Molasses. He takes forever to do anything. So I knew it was going to be a struggle. So it was like, what do I do? Do I tell my kid, you can't do this?
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Or do I support him? And I was telling him not to do it. And my second husband and I were dating at the time. As a matter of fact, we got married right before. And he convinced me to take out the loan and said, because he was making good money. He worked, when we got married, he worked for Miller Brewery.
Mhm.
So, he was making like 70K, 80K.
Right.
So he said, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll pay it back. Don't worry about it. And so I took it. So I took out this loan for 30,000. Well, it's now 50. And I don't have the money to pay it back.
No, I had I knew this one guy. He was really into film, and he was in high school. I recently like looked him up to see like what was going on with him,
Mm-hmm.
and my God, so this guy did camera work or whatever for a couple of like big name shows, but it's more or less like reality TV show garbage, like not America's Next Top Model, not Drag Race. He might have done some Drag Race stuff. I can't remember too much, but it was like around that general area that he was doing camera work for. And I'm like, I could tell, like, based on this guy's interest back in high school, I was like, he took this job because he needed to take this job. But he took the full he got the full 100K loan.
How?
To Full Sail. And everybody was like when he did it, everybody, like his friends and me, like reacted with, ooh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
And there was a Facebook status. This is how long ago this was. There was a Facebook status back in like 2013 or something like that, or 2014. And they were like, wow, props to I can't remember his name, Kevin. Props to Kevin. He's now a senior in his second year of college. He worked so hard. And I was just like, yeah, that actually sounds like an awful time, if I'm being honest with you. Like cramming 4 years worth of education into 2, and then charging like $100,000 for that program in specific.
Oh yeah, and then there's
good.
In Orlando, there's no student housing, so we had to put my son in an apartment. He wasn't even old enough to start a bank account because just like you, he's born in July, so he was 17. So he wasn't old enough to start a bank account. So we had to start a bank account in his name. We had to get the apartment for him. We had to do all of this stuff. And then he flunked out and didn't tell me. And I found out by accident.
I've heard worse stories. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but again, I took out a $30,000 loan for him, which is now $50,000.
Right.
And now he's not talking to me.
Yeah, I had a uncle. I still have an uncle. Excuse me, he's still alive. I have an uncle who's the main he's actually like his daughter is the main reason why I didn't get a loan for college. Because his daughter, so he paid, my uncle makes pretty good money. He paid for the full ride for his daughter. I don't think he took out a loan. I think he legitimately saved up like his put life savings towards that. Paid the full ride for his daughter to go. His daughter ended up flunking out, coming back home and just saying like, I need to go find myself. And then like we're at a party. We're at a house party at their house, and I'm talking to the daughter, which is my cousin. I'm talking to my cousin, and we're like chatting it up or whatever. And she's telling me this story about how she met the guy who did that viral YouTube video back in the 2000s of that kid who was in school and pretended he was like fighting with using a lightsaber. And because he was kind of chubby or whatever, they would make fun of him after a while. And he became like this internet star. It was like the most viral internet YouTube video in the 2000s. I think so much so like it got featured on like Tosh.0 and stuff like that. And apparently that kid grew up and hates it every single time that somebody finds out that he's the kid who did the lightsaber video.
I'm sure.
And so like to the point where he'll get like massively angry, finish his drink and leave the party. And so my cousin's telling me the story that she was at a party with this guy and her friend told her that he was the guy and that how angry and upset he gets. And so my cousin goes to the guy and is like, hey, you're the kid, right? You're the guy who's the kid who did the lightsaber fight. And what do you know? He gets angry. He crushes his beer in his hand and he pouts and he leaves. And I'm just like, you were kind of the asshole in that situation. So literally, this conversation ends. We're like drinking alcohol and we're playing I think it's ping pong or something like that. It's either ping pong or dominoes. Her friends, I'm Hispanic in case you didn't know. Her friends roll up with an SUV and is like, hey, let's go. We're going on a cross-country road trip. And she's just like, okay, and hops into the car and is gone. And her parents asked me, they're like, "Hey, do you know where she is?" And I'm like, "She went into a car with her friends, and apparently they're going on a trip somewhere. I have no idea." So she was gone for like a month, and no one was barely able to contact her. And like, I think she called the house once and was just like, "Yeah, I just wanted to find myself and spend this time finding myself and stuff."
Alrighty then.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah,
Her mom was-
I found out that my oldest had dropped out when I found out that he was home for Easter, and I did like he was in town for Easter, and I didn't know it.
right.
And I was like, I think my little one, my youngest, was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to Dad's, and me, Dad, and Dayton are gonna go hang out." And I'm like, "What do you mean, you, Dad, and Dayton? What? Dayton's in town?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's been here." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So then emails started and found out that he had flunked out. He knew because his dad did nothing for him financially for college. It was me and my new husband. So when he flunked out, he knew that I was on the line for this money. So instead of calling me, he called his dad.
Gotcha. Sounds
And-
like something a kid would do. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think back to teenage me and how angsty I used to be back then and stuff like that, and the type of stuff that I would do. I would 1,000% do something like that if I was in the same situation. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, he knew I was I would be furious, and I was furious, and I did curse him out when I did finally talk to him. But again, I cursed him out, and
It's understandable though.
yeah, because right now I owe $50,000 because of his dumbass. So
Yeah,
but hey,
I'm very grateful that I didn't take out a loan. But I will say, I wish I got to live that college experience.
me too.
I really do. I
I
really
didn't go
wish
to
I got
college
to
until
like
I
go
was
to the dorms for 4 years, then struggle working minimum wage.
Yeah, I
Or
wish I had too. I mean, I went straight. Well, I got kicked out of high school, and I went straight from high school to working, and then working, crap jobs to moving in with what became my first husband. So
did you fake like you had a high school diploma?
no, I got my GED.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say like, I know somebody who like on their resume they
Mhm.
put that they have a high school diploma, but they don't have a high school diploma. Nobody checks that stuff.
No,
You
my
can
last
just, like,
job.
I don't think people realize this, but you can lie on
Oh
your
no,
resume.
crap. My last job in Texas was a supported employment specialist. And job coach. So what I did was I helped people with disabilities find and keep jobs. Some of them I would have to like do their resumes. Some of them were so disabled I used to have to do like their testing for them. I would have to do their applications for them, like everything. Some of them could not read.
I believe it.
But
That was a new experience for me, by the way, because like my father worked as like a not as a like a government social worker, but as like a disabled home, sort of like where they would have like apartments in the projects and stuff that would be dedicated to like having like a disabled sort of family there. So like mentally disabled essentially. And there would be like a bunch of like teenagers and kids growing up in these households, and my father would help take care of them, and that was really eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
Being exposed to that stuff, like people, like I think that's one of the things, right? Like there's ignorance involved with that type of stuff where you're judging a sort of people and you don't know what's going on in their day-to-day lives. We have that habit of judging people like that, right?
Oh
But
God.
it's like, man, like, yo, like my father, like I remember hearing stories about how one of the kids that used to live there would like all of a sudden like get blackout rage. And like my one of the people my father was working with straight up like got punched like in the stomach extremely hard and can't retaliate.
Oh yeah, I had a
Stuff like
kid.
that,
I had a kid once, and I call him a kid. I want to say he was in his mid-20s, and I could reject anyone. Like my boss would present somebody to me, and I could reject them or take them on. I never rejected anyone. I only gave one person away just because he was just out of his mind. But I had this kid, he was in his mid-20s, and I got told ahead of time before I ever met him that when he gets really upset, he defecates on himself. Now go get him a job.
Yeah, nah.
This is what I was dealing with, but I did get him a job, as a matter of fact, because I basically treated every single one of my clients like they were my kids, even if they were older than me. I'm like,
What do you do in that case? Like just at home, like phone calling?
No, I got him a job as a bagger at Kroger.
How were you able to? How was he able to keep that job? That's what I want to know.
I had a conversation with him before I even got him the job and said, look, this is what I was told. What you do with your parents that's between you and your parents. But if I get you a job, you're representing me and we will not have this, or I will not help you. And that's how I started. I mean, I just had to set really clear boundaries.
Right.
And every single person that I had was great about it, except two. They were both, one was older than me, as a matter of fact. He was in his late 50s. And I also got him a bagger job at a Kroger at an Albertsons. And he started screwing up at work. And he worked overnights. So I literally went, and thank God they had a Starbucks in the Albertsons, like in the beginning, like in the front of the store. So I literally, for an entire week, sat at his work and just stared at him while he worked because he screwed up. I said, okay, if you're going to act like a child, I'm going to treat you like a child. And when I say that, because I did that with both my kids when they screwed up at school. Okay, you're going to act like a fool. I'm going to treat you like a fool. And I went to their school and I shadowed them for an entire week. And every time a teacher called their name and they didn't respond or they were goofing off, they got smacked in the back of the head. What are you doing? Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's parenting.
Yeah, I feel like I can't relate to most people's like family experiences around where I'm at because the demographics are how do I say it? It's not very multicultural where I'm at. As so like when people tell me about their family stories, I'm like, man, like I just can't relate at all. And it's funny because like the whole hitting on top of the head stuff, like hitting in general is like something that's just like a very sensitive subject for most, but it's just like, yeah, amongst minorities and stuff like that, like that's a thing. Like that's hugely a thing. Like getting the belt, like, or the chancleta, you know, like
yeah, we didn't. I will say this, I screwed up. Both of my kids got a belt spanking once. And
that was your generation though.
Yeah, well,
like,
and
it was the same with my father too.
But I regret it. And again, both of them got one. And I regretted both of them. And I was also the parent that swore I would never lay a hand on my kid until my oldest tested me at 2. And he was jumping up and down on the couch. And I was like, you need to stop. And I would threaten, but I wouldn't. And so, he'd seen other people get spankings and he knew what a spanking was, but I had never given him one. And so I said, you need to get down or you're going to get your butt spanked. And he said, or I'm going to spank your butt. And he looked at me and said, no, you won't.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
One of my favorite stories when I was a kid is I was concocting a plan in my head.
That was a hand spanking, by the way, whoever angry that at me.
No, you're good. There's like so there was one of my favorite one of my favorite stories as a kid was I thought I could escape the belt. Like I thought I could play like for fun, I would play like this wild goose chase with the belt. And so my plan was, so I lived in a New York City apartment. New York City apartments are very small. It was a 2-bedroom one with a skinny hallway that connected the bedroom and bathroom section, and then the hallway, and then the kitchen living
And
room
then the
section.
kitchen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So my plan was I would say a curse word in front of my mom, and then as she got the belt to go like whoop me or whatever, I would run down the hallway, go to her room, go across the bed, and like go around her. She was chasing me or something like that, and just loop around.
Mhm. Yeah, how'd
I
that
made
work?
it. So I said the curse word. I got down the hallway into the master bedroom. As I was sliding across the bed, that's when she got me. Fun times.
Oh, good Lord. But no, that,
But
and
yeah,
when but again, why I brought up the whole supporting employment specialist was because I found when I would apply people for things, no one ever followed up.
right.
No one ever checked references ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Really? And so I also had some people who were professionals that I just had to help them like tweak their resumes and things like that, and found out that no one from all the way down from baggers all the way up to I had somebody who worked in the public relations, all the way up to that. No one checked references ever, not once. And I started thinking about all the jobs that I had applied for myself. And, like in my cover letter, I have 3 personal references that I put in my cover letter. I don't think anybody's ever called one of them, ever.
So I think I've had one job that I applied for call my references. But out of all the jobs that I've got hired, I think I only know of 2 that called my references. But I think like these, like, I love applying and working for small companies because it's less bullshit involved. Like it's normally a 2-step process. You apply, if they like their resume, you set up an interview, and then you go to the interview. And you
Right.
either ace the interview and they'll call you back or give you the job right then and there, or you didn't ace the interview and they're not getting a call back.
Right.
But I just really like that turnaround time, because when you go through corporate, it's like, oh,
Your
you have
third
to take this
interview, your fifth
personality test,
interview.
then you got a phone interview. There was one time where I was working at McDonald's at the time, and I got a job interview for this place. Like I submitted my job interview for some like cell phone place, and I was gonna work at their corporate offices and do like IT support and stuff like that. And I submitted my application process. I had a phone interview. I had a second phone interview. I had I had 3 in-person interviews. By that third in-person interview, I was already meeting people who were actively working. And then like I sat down with one of the people to figure out what the job was about. Like they were like, okay, well, let's introduce you to all that stuff. And then at the end of this interview, the woman that's been guiding me through the process this whole time, very happy to talk to me. I'm in the elevator with her, and she was like, okay, just to let you know, it's not a for sure thing that you're hired, even though you've gotten this far and all this other stuff. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm going, she's not hiring me. Like, it's just not happening. And then lo and behold, I sent an email back a week later, and I was like, hey, what's up with this? And I didn't get hired. I was like, this took a month. This took a month to happen.
Right. What kills me about those too is like if they make you go fingerprinting and things like that that cost you money. Or I've done working interviews and I haven't gotten paid. What is that?
Yeah, I only use Indeed now. I think Indeed, like if you're a regular working class citizen, Indeed is probably your best bet to get jobs, just because it has that easy apply and it makes your resume for you and stuff like that. But I remember like, dude, when I was like reaching the bottom of the barrel because I lived in a essentially like a food desert of sorts. Like I lived in an area that was really up in the woods, like in the mountains at one point, where I had to drive like 30 minutes to society and then like an extra 15 minutes just to get to an actual city. Um, like when I lived over there and I had to reach at the bottom of the barrel just to get any job that I could, Craigslist was the fucking worst, man. Like I got scammed off of Craigslist once, and never again. I got my money back, thankfully, from that job interview process because we jumped up enough to think about it. But yeah, man, there's like scams everywhere for that type of stuff. If they're asking me for like unpaid internship type of labor before hire, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I will
like
never
straight
do
up.
another. I will never do another working interview. I did one recently, and I will never do another one because, again, I've done some where I've been paid. The last one I did not get paid. But what's weird is I've had the opposite experience. I have never gotten a call off of Indeed. I've got most of my jobs off of Craigslist.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think it might just be like, well, I don't know. Like the
I
type
got
of
that
job.
supported
I don't
employment
remember.
specialist job off of Craigslist, and my last year there, I made 61.
Okay. I
So
think it might also be just the type of jobs that we're looking for, right? Like mine, I'm in the tech field. So like when I apply to jobs, most of it's like tech or tech adjacent.
I'm just looking for admin shit, and this was such a fluke. I was
I gotta say though, like you work admin, right? And I work tech. Not gonna lie, like I've worked with people who have gotten paid way more than me to the point where like, and then like I've gotten replaced by a person who had more qualifications than me. And I call like months later and like turn to find out like the CEO was like, this guy was like twice as good as you were. And all this other stuff. I see he's firing this like this new guy that they replaced me with. And it's just funny because like when I think back in my head, this type of things, it's like, man, you think these people who make like six figures and up or whatever, that they're like some of the smartest people in the world or whatever, right? There's like base level of respect or whatever that comes with the wealth. But then you realize like when you're in the working force for enough time, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
you know what? What is an admin? Admin, administrative assistant, secretarial work.
Yeah, that's like you for administration. It's like mostly like secretarial work, bookkeeping, appointments, scheduling, just basic stuff like that. Computer tasks, working in Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, it's all the paperwork, grunt work shit that you know the busy people don't want to do.
Essentially, right? The quote unquote busy people, and like so. Another thing, I know we're going past like our 1 hour time. It just always happens when I'm on.
We're chilling. It's Into the Abyss. We have Into the Abyss. There's generally something that goes wrong. And we just fall into the abyss. It's all fun.
We're just going through the rabbit holes here. Or the wormholes in this case. So my GM, when I worked for McDonald's, my GM at the time was telling me, because I came through with like technical experience and I kind of had to work a minimum wage job because I couldn't find jobs that paid well in my area. Mm-hmm. And so my GM told me, he's like, yeah, so like I work, so GMs typically will work about 70 to 80 hours weeks clocked in the whole time. And then come to find out that they're salary exempt and they only make $50K a year base starting. And I'm like, 70 to 80 hour weeks for $50K, salary exempt. I'm good. Like once I found that out, I was like, oh, nah, I'm good. I'm out of here. I'm going to go find some other job. And I did. I just, now I work a job that's just like, it's tech, but it's just like very little work and I can do my own shit when I'm there,
No, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I used to work in hotels years ago. I don't know. It's like I did that so long ago, and I guess I could go back to it, once COVID, I don't know, goes away or gets better. I don't know. Right now I don't trust leaving the house right now. I live in Florida. I've got DeSantis as my governor, who's just like, open everything, screw masks, whatever. Trump is my best friend. I try not to like leave. Since I lost my job, I go out very rarely. I think I've left the house maybe 12 times since April.
So I'm going to say something that's kind of sort of controversial. I am having a family gathering for Thanksgiving. Like, I know many people are skipping out of that because of COVID. I know for a fact that my family in Florida is really good about COVID, like their procedures and stuff. So
Mhm.
I did invite them over. Um, but I mean, like, between my state, Tennessee, and then my wife's family, her family is in North Carolina. Both those states are bad.
Right.
And um so it's kind of like all three states that I'm interacting with that people are coming. Actually, no, my uncle's coming through from New York as well. I got a couple of people coming from like all different states, but like everybody I know practices good like safety procedures and precautions. So I'm not too worried about it. But like my situation is a lot different from other people's situations. Are we gonna wear masks? That's a good question. I don't know.
I would probably not if I mean, it's probably just going to be me, Tony, and my pops, my stepdad for Thanksgiving. And, it's just going to be the three of us. So
I think if it's my family and us interacting with other people, we will be wearing masks. But I mean, as long as like all my job, my little brother's jobs, they're the ones that are working, like actively engaging with other people. They're all masked up and get their temps checked every day. My mother and my stepdad also get their temps checked every day, but they work like the gig economy. Like they do the DoorDash type stuff. And
right.
then my stepdad just works from home. So but like I said, it's a tough situation there, right? Because it's like I'm kind of this year, like we're kind of obligated to do Thanksgiving. And I got stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I was just like, well, if that's the case, I'd rather do it from the safety of my own home than go somewhere else.
No, I totally agree.
But yeah, I mean, like that's just a contradiction, right? That's a contradiction that I have that I'm going through. And it's tough with this pandemic because like with the whole picture thing, we don't go out anymore. So it's just like I've got no social life already. I work overnights. Like tonight I work. Like after I'm done with this, I got to get ready for work, So it's just like I don't see anybody. And mental health when you're working overnight shifts is so important because if you're not getting exercise and getting some amount of sunlight, when the depression hits you,
it's rough.
it is so rough. Like, I mean, I'm talking like I was getting, and then on top of being like really into politics and stuff like that, like I was getting like 3 hours of sleep and then wake up in a cold sweat because of my depression and stuff. Like it's rough. So much so like I had to like turn to religion as like a helping matter of the sorts. But yeah, man, it's really, really rough. So like the holidays is my social time. So it's like it's unfortunately it's a risk that I'm willing to take. Is basically what I'm saying.
And we all have to we all have to weigh that for ourselves. Just like
yeah, I mean, like if you have family members that are like anti-maskers and aren't taking precautions, oh, dude, stay the fuck away. But like, I know that my family does like those precautions, right?
Yeah, well, my pops doesn't, and was literally shaming people into going to church in the heart of the pandemic. But my house is big enough that it's just me, my husband, and my stepdad if he comes. So we can social distance in my house with 3 people. So
You're
I'm
good,
not
Cloud.
really, huh?
No. We got some comments where he was where that person was talking about the mask situation. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so he's risky, but my house is big enough that I think that we can social distance enough that we'll be fine. I don't know that I would have a house full.
Yeah.
Even though my house is big enough to do that, I don't think that I would do that right now. But since it's just the 3 of us, I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, I recently had a coworker who had a close death because of COVID. And it wasn't even like an older family member. It was one of his childhood friends who is the same age as him. He's 30 years old.
Wow.
His lung collapsed due to COVID and he died, left behind a son.
Wow. Well,
And
as
he
a
was a
matter of
single
fact,
father too, you know?
I've
But
got
it is rough.
I've got somebody who I'm gonna have on the show. Her name is Carrie Hill. She has been dealing with COVID for now over 200 days. She's lost her hair. She was just in the hospital again yesterday because her blood pressure was so low. She passed out. It is no joke. So for the people who are saying that, you know, I talked to somebody yesterday. Was it online? I can't even remember where. Who was talking about it being, it was as soon as the election's over, it's going to disappear. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's
And where the thing is too is that it comes in like a time of the third wave, right? Like we just got 83,000 reported cases in one day, and we know, like you and I both know, right? Because I'm sure you've seen stuff on Twitter that this stuff is underreported.
oh
Like
god.
I
Yeah.
remember when
Florida
the
actively-
reports, the initial reports from New York were like not close, right? Because
Our
if people
governor
died in
is-
their own homes, they weren't attributing that to COVID.
No, our governor is actively telling our health officials not to report the numbers. So we really don't know here in Florida at all.
Yeah, plus the family events coming up between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's going to be pretty wild, man.
Yeah. So, but we've got 11 more days till the election. Is that right?
I'm not looking forward to it. I know you were like, oh, well, you know, you're going to be asleep for half of your shift. I'm like, that's not the way my shifts work. And like, I'm too morbidly curious to not go on Twitter election night. I might hop in a couple minutes here and there, but I'm just thinking, like, you just have to know, right? You have to know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same as you. I live on Twitter and Facebook. Well, I live on Facebook mostly. I'm now on Twitter more because of podcasting, but I live on Facebook. Like I said, that's my only outlet since I don't go out. I don't go anywhere since I lost my job. I don't really leave the house very often. So if Tony's not here, you know, that's my only socializing.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty much been like that with my wife and I as well.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. I will say this, and I'm gonna take us out on this. I predict a Biden win, which doesn't necessarily make me happy, but that's what I predict. After that, I don't know. I don't know what Trump's going to do. I don't know. I honestly feel like he seems like he doesn't want it. Trump.
Yeah. So like, I predict the Biden win as well. You know, I actually spoke to one of my coworkers who, when I met him, he was a Republican through and through. Like he voted Trump 2016. He's a white guy. He's 30 years old. He lives in the South. Like, I don't blame him, right? Yeah, I spoke to him recently and he said he voted for Biden. He was like, I hate it because I don't like Biden. But then I think to myself, what my friends' feelings are and what their experiences are living under like this administration and stuff like that, and their opinions and stuff like that. And I took that into consideration. Because although my lived experience has been pretty good, right, all things considered, my friends who are not white and you know, don't come from my background, you know, have been suffering from discrimination and some of this stuff as well. So it's just like, yeah, I voted for Biden, and he got really like torn up about it for some reason. And I was just like, you know, hey, you're coming around. Like that's part of being human. It's like being compassionate and empathetic towards other people. I as well predict a Biden win, but I think that they're going to use the courts to try and keep Trump in power. I don't know if that's going to be successful. I don't know. The cat's out of the bag. The cat's too far out of the bag with a bunch of these things.
Mhm.
With like just even in Texas, like even the fact that they reduced the amount of voting stations and stuff,
People have come out.
still came out. People were taking flights out. People were making that 4-hour drive to go vote. And I think because the voter, like we've been told nonstop, vote, 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 vote. Like people are actually getting it through their heads that there was a podcast I listened to recently, and I'm sorry to jump down like several different rabbit holes recently, but it changed my outlook on things a bit in terms of electoralism, because I was always like electoralism is a sham, right? But it's like this is the one scrap of power that the ruling elite is willing to give to us, and we should take advantage of that. And so, although I'm not going to be out in the streets and I'm not going to be phone banking for Biden, I'm going to vote for him. Like, you know, and I originally came out with like I'm just not going to vote at all. But I think in this election in particular, and hearing that viewpoint of things, I'm like, yeah, like I'll vote for him. I'm not gonna, you know, like say like, yeah, you should go vote for him, because I don't think you should. I don't think it's imperative to. I think for the most part, there's more billionaires that have backed Biden over Trump in this stage of the game, and the voter turnout is already so huge with the outright of like transparency. I don't think my vote overall matters, especially in my red state. But I still am going to exercise my right. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for him. If you vote for him, cool. If you don't, whatever. I don't like Biden. I think that there has been certain concessions that he's made recently that people have not really taken into account, like the tax plan and all this other stuff. Because as far as I know, yeah, there's been a couple of people in networks that have criticized Biden for his tax plan, but the people like to see taxes go up on the wealthy elite. And I think that sort of normie shit with the whole tax return release and the way Trump debated against Biden in the first debate performance, like apparently that had its toll on the normies out there on the news and stuff like that. And then on top of that, you have the whole Postal Service controversy getting mainstream news. You had a couple of other, basically because certain controversies got mainstream news. That's why Biden is able to win. I think if some of those controversies, and normally all of these other controversies that have happened, normally this shit would get swept under the rug, or it just wouldn't see front page news. But because it has been, it's given Biden the advantage. And I think that Biden has made some concessions recently, because he could have just came out with a tax plan that just increased wealthy elite taxes by like 2%. And be like, oh, we got to take what we can get. You know what I'm saying? And all this other shit. But I think that there has been some concessions that he has made. He hasn't gone far enough by any means. And, you know, I don't see him reversing course on the crime bill. I don't see him reversing course on Medicaid for all. I think if that type of stuff does happen, it's going to have to be because of this voter turnout, like this huge amount of voter turnout that happens, that we start to see like something's got to give. And I think that Kamala Harris especially is the one that is starting to see that a bit more. I don't like her. I think she's evil. I don't think, okay, I think she drinks off of her own Kool-Aid a lot of the time. And she's essentially like a meaner Barack Obama, I would say, in terms of like the way she presents herself, because she seems like she gives off like Barack Obama type of rhetoric and arguments,
but with a tinge of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and that tinge of Hillary Clinton is what makes her a bad person to listen to, because you get that like that smarminess. I'm looking down on you as I'm talking to you, that condescension.
Yes.
Like that's what hurts her. And in my eyes, like we just saw recently, like Trump's starting to pull out like you would never see Trump use Bernie Sanders in like a Trump ad, right?
It's
But now he's starting to
desperation.
use the Bernie Sanders debate footage. And all that reminds me of is like, yeah, I'm still going to vote Biden, but all it makes me wish was that Bernie Sanders was meaner. Bernie Sanders should have been a mean motherfucker.
Yeah,
Like,
he should.
that motherfucker should have called out Biden in the debate. He should have gave everyone shit. And you know what? I don't think that they would have done anything about it. What would have happened was they would have gave it the Donald Trump effect. Because if Bernie Sanders started calling out people on their shit at the debates, it started being a mean motherfucker on there, what would have ended up happening was the press would have started giving him more airtime. Because they would have saw the ratings boost from that, and they would have been like, oh, we need to actually let Bernie talk and just run away with this. But because he's so like, oh, Joe Biden is my friend, I'm not going to do him like that, and like still not going hard in the paint against the other candidates, he fucking lost.
I agree.
And it's true. America loves a mean motherfucker as a leader. Like
Because
Donald Trump got the presidency because he was fucking mean. Barack Obama got the presidency because he was mean towards Hillary Clinton towards the end. He was like, Hillary Clinton's eating her own shit right now.
Right.
You know?
But there's part of us that, I think this is what it is. There's part of us that wants our leader to fight, to be a fighter, fight for us. And that's what his base is like, so why they're so enamored with him, because it doesn't matter whether or not he's right, he will fight. He will fight their fight for them. And that's what I wanted Bernie to do for us, was really fight. And he didn't.
I have a friend from Ohio. He was in the 2016 campaign for Bernie Sanders. A bunch of black people, brown people from all over was like, hey, he needs to address X, Y, and Z because I'm out in the field right now and I'm getting questions on this when I'm getting pressured and I don't know what to say. And you have Jeff Weaver and a bunch of his campaign managers just going, well, you know, if we like, what people need to get it right is that equality does not mean justice, right? If I give everyone, and like we talk about like the super wonk shit, right? Of like when it comes to like stimulus checks and stuff like, oh, well, people under X, Y, and Z income should be the only ones getting the stimulus checks, right? When we get into that wonk shit, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like reparations, right? Like reparations inherently is justice because not everybody's going to get their 40 acres and a mule, right? But we owe it to the generations of families out here who have suffered intergenerational trauma, right? Because the economy, they've come out with graphs about like African American wealth, Caucasian wealth, Latino wealth, from the years of segregation till now, and that shit has not gone up that much. You see little sprinkles of like, oh, it went from like 0.01% to now, 3% of the entire United States wealth. And I'm like, how the fuck does that make sense? How the fuck is that equal? How the fuck is that justice? You know?
Yes, but if you're not in it, you're not thinking about that shit. If you're not one of those people, you don't think about that. So when somebody brings it up and you're not one of those people, I totally understand why they're like, well, why do you get something and I don't? Because they don't understand what we've had to do as minorities to get to not even the same playing field or the same level as others. The stumbling blocks that have to have been overcome just to get the basics for us is insurmountable in some instances. And so I understand where like Trump supporters who are poor don't understand that argument.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is like the you know, the liberals and the Democratic, you know, or democratically aligned news media and stuff like that tend to like stigmatize the poor Southerners and the poor Midwesterners who are not a part of like the huge cities and stuff. And it's just like these are people, like these are real human beings, right? And it's like, where's your compassion, right? And we saw this play out on Twitter recently. Like you were, I'm sure you saw it too with the whole homeless discourse. Now I'm like, if you're homeless, you're homeless. Like, It doesn't matter what type of creed or race or whatever you're coming from. If you're homeless, like, you should be helped. Everyone should have a right to a home and stuff like that. Like,
No, I do agree.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness doesn't exist if you don't have a house.
No.
And if you don't have a place to live. Period.
No, because it's hard to get a job if you're homeless.
Same argument could be made for healthcare too.
Yeah, but homelessness is different than that too. Because think about it: if you're homeless and you're trying to find work, okay, you need to be able to shower, you need to be able to like wash your clothes, you need to be able to you know have some place to decompress afterwards. I mean, these are all things that you don't really think about if you've never been homeless. You also don't think about toiletries, and if you're female and homeless and you're still within childbearing years, you got to deal with having menstruation issues and being homeless. It's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Those people who say, well, it's your fault that you're homeless because of your bad choices. Okay, some people are homeless because of their bad choices. The majority of people are not homeless because of their bad choices, in my opinion.
Yeah. And like that's what I told this one of the first instances I had where I met like a real life Republican, and I was like, actually, like, I was like, you're a Republican? Really? You're my age. Like, what's the thing? I was like, and like I heard from him, and this is before I had any like real political nuance, because all I really was like a nader progressive, right? Like, when I was in class during the 2004 elections, we had class elections, right? On like who would we vote for if we got to vote for president. I was the only one that voted for Nader. It was like, and weirdly enough, I was in New York City at the time, and I remember it being pretty close between Bush and Kerry in my classroom. Not everybody was voting for Kerry, but like I didn't really have the political nuance. But I told him, I was just like, yeah, I believe in the things that I believe because I came from my specific experience, and I can see why you believe the stuff that you believe due to your experience. And that was pretty much like an eye-opening stuff. Like, one of my favorite videos of YouTube of like online debates and discussion is the healthcare debate between Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul, where they brought on a bunch of doctors, and like, I guess like an EMT as well and stuff like that, and asked them like about their job and like what are the ways that the government can help do their job. And
Right.
Rand Paul has his own like libertarian way of doing it or whatever, and like what he was basically going off of was the assumption, right, this whole like Ronald Reagan common sense type thing, that if like, well, if we do this for people, then they're just going to do that and just automatically think the worst of people. When in reality, like, the only people who are mentally geared to exploit are in that capacity are the people, like, mostly are the people who already make a shit ton of money in some way, shape, or form, right?
Right. Like, if you do UBI, which I wasn't a big proponent of it, but if we get it, great. And I like, I wasn't a Yang person. I understand why people would be in favor of it, and I would not be opposed to it. It's just like not one of those things that was like, on my radar. But listening to people talk about, people who are opposed to it, talk about, oh, well, if you give them money, they're just going to spend it on this, or they're just going to spend it on drugs, and they're not going to. No, people are going to, they're going to take care of themselves. Just like with the COVID payments, people are just going out, and just buying shit willy-nilly. People are using that money to survive. And those people out there that just don't understand living paycheck to paycheck, those are the people, and I think that's why I started leaning more towards Bernie Sanders type politics, because, I've talked about this before. I voted for Bush Jr. I voted for W his first term. And I was living in Texas.
In 2000?
his first term was
Yeah.
yeah.
That's wild. So you were the black Republican.
No. I was living in Texas. My life was good. He was coming off of being governor, and I went, all right, I'll give him a shot. That's literally why I voted for him.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then I paid attention and went, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I did the same thing with Obama. I voted for him in his first term, and then I sat back and watched, and I went, no. And in his second term, I didn't vote for POTUS.
I just want to address the chat really quick because Cloud has been typing in it a couple of things. And I know we're like gonna head off soon because we've went way over. Yep. But so Cloud was talking about Biden can be influenced by progressive activism. I believe so as well, at least to a certain extent. He's kind of shown that he's just like, I'm gonna keep to my conservative roots, but I will actually budge on some things. I don't disagree there. I don't think, because I think he's been showing that recently with some proposals. Bernie Sanders did come close to very winning. I think he should have been mean in the March debate specifically when I think he just got destroyed before Super Tuesday. I think that whole primary thing is a scam. I think the primaries need to happen all in one day, or at least do half one week, half another week. Like it's bullshit that we have this whole like dog show style tournament style primary season. So a couple $1,000, no. I wouldn't even give reparations in that sort of sense. I'm talking like black people are owned land. Like they're owed land at the very least. Like that's the big thing. Like having a place to live is way more than a couple $1,000, and we have enough empty apartments and households out there that we can more or less give the entire African American population land, at the very least. But I do agree that Medicare for all will help alleviate some of the issues. But then, how does it alleviate issues where class isn't a problem, right? How do you alleviate issues where like the mortality rate of African American women dying during childbirth is like X times the amount for the equivalent Caucasian who have the same amount of wealth? Like how do you alleviate that sort of thing, right? It's like it's a whole structural thing. It's structural racism. Basically, like we have to combat the system at multiple different angles, and it can't just be like, oh, we're gonna give, every black person a $10,000 check. Like it's just not gonna cut it, right?
And that's
and
why
I'm gonna say it too. Like I'm like, sometimes it's not readily apparent to people that I'm Hispanic, right? Like, I normally get like, oh, you're Italian or something like that, but it's just like I'm well aware of the history with Hispanics too, about how like if you were born and you were light skinned, you got a different name, you got a white name, and you moved somewhere where nobody knew you, and that's how you survived, right? And then if you were tanned or whatever, you were again put through oppression, far more oppression. You still see it today with certain parts of the entertainment industry. But I'm sorry for getting away. Go ahead.
No, that's not just in the Hispanic or Latino community. That's in the black community too. If you can pass,
if you could pass, that was your golden ticket.
Hell yeah. Which that whole now white women reversing to be black, that is very confusing. But I don't want to get into all that. So I'm stopping it.
Sorry. I have this habit. Fine. I do this all the time.
Grav, it's fine. And I appreciate that you can and that we can do it together. So Grav, do you have anything you want to plug, hon?
Yeah. So if you guys would like to check it out, I have a Power Rangers podcast. It's from like a sort of leftist political lens. We analyze the entire show. We're going over every season. We are now up to Zeo. We're wrapping up Mighty Morphin, I think, on the release schedule, but we've already started recording some Zeo stuff. Again, it's called Sentai Truther Club. You can also follow me on Twitter at Gravcast. My podcast is also at Sentai Truther.
Alrighty. And I guess we're going to have Henry and his band back on another day because we were just having too many technical difficulties. So I do apologize. And as always, I have my book that I want to plug, Forgotten Tomorrow's Crazy Todays. It is available on Amazon. And both, if I can do this, can I do it? Did I do it? Yep. Yay, I did it. It's available on Amazon on both paperback or on Amazon Prime. And then we also have next week, we have a special guest. Let me undo this because I'm very bad technically. There we go.
You're fine.
Next week, I don't know how to do this. So, whatever. Next week, we're going to have on Into the Abyss, Australian satirist, radio personality, documentarian, and author, John Safran. And he's from Australia. So it's going to be morning in Australia, I believe. No, I don't even know the time difference. Anyway, so
it's a wild time difference. It's like 14 hours, I think.
Yeah, I get it all confused. It was bad enough trying to do the time difference in Vietnam with Keela Rose Calloway last week.
Oh my God.
So she was getting up for breakfast and we were going to bed. And this week we'll be doing the same thing, or next week we'll be doing the same thing with John Safran. Hopefully we'll be able to get our calling working before then. So in the meantime, anything else you want to say before we hit the road?
We're good to go. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for doing this. You guys, it's been great. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.